I'm Mara Vickers. I'm here at Chef's Table for some food for thought. I'm interviewing the London Chamber of Commerce CEO. We're going to be back right after this break. Let's go sit down. Welcome to Food for Thought. I'm here with Graham Henderson from the London Chamber of Commerce. He's the CEO. Hi, Graham.
Hi. How are you today, Mara?
Doing pretty good.
Excellent.
You excited for some food?
I'm ready for some food. Could be a food fight.
Food fight. Hopefully not with the first dish. I believe it's soup.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah.
That one might hurt a bit.
Yeah.
What soup do you want it to be? I'm hoping maybe pumpkin.
For me, no. I've never understood. I've never understood pumpkin in a soup.
Welcome to Chef's Table. Here's the soup of the day: roasted tomato and red pepper soup with pecorino and olive oil. Jaime.
Thank you.
Thanks. Looks really good.
Looks good. Pecorino.
Looks a bit like pumpkin.
It does look, but I don't think it is. All right.
Yeah.
So this is challenge number one for me. Pecorino is sheep cheese. If I'm correct.
You would know better than me.
Yeah.
I don't actually know.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Oh, it's great.
Oh, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Are those croutons in it?
They're croutons, spicy, and I might add, everything coming out of that kitchen's pretty darn good.
You can smell it.
Yeah, I've never had any meal here that wasn't top notch.
Well, you and I have a bit in common. We both have a bit of a background in music. I know you spent a lot of time in Music Canada. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I did. Music Canada was my most recent post, but I actually started out many, many years ago as a lawyer working for a big downtown law firm in Toronto, and ended up by chance in the communications and entertainment department, as they called it, where they did a lot of broadcasting law, so things that would affect you in your future career and the folks around here at Fanshawe. But there was also a subset there of people who worked on film, television, and music. And so what attracted me to it was the music. So I started to work in that area with a mentor of mine, Stephen Stone, and that became my practice. It was almost 100% music, and so I was working with young recording artists and singers and songwriters and producers from about 1989 through about 1987 and on, and that's what I did. I left that big firm and I went out on my own, continued to do that sort of work, which was very exciting. It was a period of real renaissance in the Canadian music industry. Katie Lang, Diana Krall, so many artists coming out at the time. So then I did go to work for one of the record companies, Universal Music, which at that time was just becoming the largest record company in the world due to a bunch of mergers. Hung around there for a few years and then went and worked for the Trade Association. Now, the Trade Association is an organization that it's kind of like a chamber of commerce. It represents the interests of, in that case, it was called Music Canada, and it represented the interests of Sony, Warner, Universal, and at the time, EMI Records. So the multinationals, and my job was to basically create a regulatory, legislative, policy framework, both federally, provincially, and municipally, create a framework where the record companies could make money, the record companies could sign artists, and artists could earn a decent living. And I did that for 15 years, and now here I am in London.
So was the goal all about promoting smaller artists, trying to get them up on the big stage?
In my early career, most of the people I worked for were debut artists. Bands that were independent, as they called them, so they hadn't signed to a record company. They were looking for a record deal. And so I was part of a team that would help them gain attention at different record companies. And in those days, they called them demo tapes. They were cassettes, then they became demo CDs, and now they're demo files. But the key being that you've got somebody coming into your office, they need some help. Sometimes they need to find a manager. Sometimes they need to find an agent, they need to find an accountant, they need all kinds of help because they're basically on their own. And it's a very complicated business. So early on, I did a lot of work, but some of my clients went on to break through and became big international stars. And so I would have a client portfolio that could include major recording artists who were selling millions of records around the world, all the way down to somebody coming in to my office who had a single song and a guitar. So it was very, very interesting and varied work.
Kind of sounds a bit like what you're doing now, in the sense that small artists trying to help them get bigger. Because I know in the London Chamber of Commerce, a lot of it's for small local businesses.
Yeah, you're so right, Mara. What interests me about this is the resonance. Musicians are often, I've met so many different people over the years who think that the music industry is just about fun. I remember one of the federal heritage ministers. She had just been appointed to the Ministry of Heritage, the Department of Heritage, responsible for all of the creative culture in Canada. And when she got announced, she said, "I'm so excited to be the Minister of Fun." And of course, every creative person in the country was like, oh,
it starts fun.
It looks fun, yes, and it is fun, and it's great to have accolades and to be on stage, but behind the scenes, it's incredibly hard work. And so I think that what I would say about musicians is they're small business people, they are very entrepreneurial. Every song they create is an innovation because it's marketable, it's saleable. It's not thought of that way, but when you get a successful song, it has enormous economic impact, not just here in Canada, but around the world. So I always thought of them as very, very keen, anxious, small business people. So I come to beautiful downtown London and work at the London Chamber of Commerce. I've got a similar situation. We've got about 1,000 members. About 800 of them are either solo entrepreneurs or folks who have 1 or 2 employees, maybe 5. 80% of our members employ fewer than 5 people. So they're a lot like musicians. And we have regular meetings of the new members. They come in and they do a little 90-second pitch. We'll get about 15 or 20 of them. And I get to listen to their stories. And I say, I tell you, it's really amazing. There are people who are starting brand new careers. There are people who are reinventing themselves. There are people who are coming back from abroad to restart a career here. There are people who are moving from one career to another. And I love hearing these stories, and I love working with these people. And it really reminds me of my days working with young musicians and older musicians. These are all folks who are the backbone of our society, hardworking, dedicated community folks out there just trying to make a living and have a family and be part of the community.
Do you ever feel like you're making a big difference? Like, it must be nice to be able to help them out.
Yeah. So, in the music world, I worked at a big law firm, and frankly, a lot of the people I joined that firm were working on huge deals, which had 9 zeros or 12 zeros attached to them, right? And it's like, oh God, and I would work early on, and I'm drafting weird little indemnity clauses, and I'm feeling like a rat in a maze or a hamster on a wheel. What difference am I making? But when I switched to music, and I had a young person come in, and a lot of good examples of that, but Livia McCollin, who ended up being a global superstar, she came in, she was a do-it-yourself artist, and she says, I need some help, I need to build something, and I need somebody to help me put the pieces together. And so I started working with her, and at that point in time, she was independent, she was putting records out by herself, she was selling them all around the world, not a lot, 15, 20,000 records, but she had a couple of people that worked with her down in Stratford, and she was definitely entrepreneurial, had a mind. She was a brilliant songwriter, brilliant performer. And so there was an example of someone I kind of got in on the ground floor and helped her develop a business model that in some respects changed the way musicians did business, not just her, but others. So for me, when you step back and you think, I played a small role in that, that is immensely gratifying. And so I would say, you know, as somebody who, I think of myself as a community builder, I think of myself as someone who, you know, is empathetic and wants people to succeed, to be able to play a small role. So I mentioned earlier, you know, I have friends who are working on billion-dollar deals. If I could get a $5,000 advance for a young artist who had nothing to record 2 or 3 songs to try and get on a record label, the expression on their face, the gratitude and the impact on their life that $5,000 had was out of all proportion to the type of money that a billionaire might get. But what I saw firsthand was the impact on that person's life. And sometimes it went on to work out and sometimes it didn't. But that being able to offer granular, micro, and sometimes bigger assistance really made a difference. And so I was very happy to do that. And here in London, it's not much different. We have businesses that are seeking to thrive, to prosper. We have business folks who are very keenly engaged with social progress, right? I think it's a misnomer to think that business folks are only focused on the money. They're actually members of their community. They care about their community. They want their community to be better. I hear it from them all the time. You hear, you know, at our Business Achievement Awards, we have those reels, and we have these people telling their stories about the charities that they support and their care for the community. So I think that helping folks like that, but it's slightly different. I'm doing the same thing. It's creating that framework. Do we have, is City Hall creating an environment, a regulatory environment that makes it easy for folks to do business, makes it easy for them to earn money? Because,
Oh, it's very good.
by the way, I didn't get your name.
Oh, my name is Bello.
Thank you. All right, yes, that was delicious. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I think that that aspect of it is as important for a local business person here. They want to succeed, they want social progress, and recording artists, they want to succeed, but you know, they're very keen, like most creators, kind of want to change the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, their songs, many of them, not all, some of them are just love songs, but they're all designed to change the world and make it better.
Yeah.
That's why I like working with them.
I mean, it's glad that we have such communities that are built for that. Like, I think a lot of small artists, they need the help of the bigger corporations to get big. You know, sometimes starting out, you need the help. And I know the London Chamber of Commerce, they do that a lot. They give a lot of benefits towards being a member. Would you be able to touch on a few of those?
Sure. So there's a sort of there is a suite of things that we offer to a small business. We ask them, you know, why do you want to be a member? Probably the number one reason people want to be members of a Chamber of Commerce is for a network. And the bigger the network I can create, the more valuable it is. So if you've got a very small network of 10 people, that's very limited, isn't it? I mean, there's only so much you can do. But if you've got 1,000, then there's a networking opportunity, and small businesses want to get in front of other businesses. They want to get a contract. I'm offering accounting services, and this person needs accounting services. Well, there's a contract that might be able to be entered into, where you're going to meet these folks, where you're going to meet them at networking events that we do. So we have a very successful...
There is vanilla and coffee.
So which is this again?
Vanilla and coffee cannoli.
Vanilla and coffee canola.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Enjoy your book. Thanks.
Where were we? I was talking about, networking. So we have these business after fives, and that usually brings between 100 and 150 people together. They have exhibition tables, some of them, others are just meandering around, meeting, shaking hands, and the whole goal there is to network and to find contracts, to find connections, to build community. So, and that's not all. I mean, obviously, even our big events like the Business Achievement Awards, where we get about 1,000 to 1,100 people in the room, State of the City, where our mayor speaks, these are just giant networking events where people mill around, talk to people, and get to know their community. So that's the number one reason. Another reason they join is because they like, we offer training opportunities. So we have an Ask the Expert series, which we invite folks to, and we talk on a range of topics. We'll bring experts in. Once a month, they could be talking about marketing, they could be talking about cybersecurity, they could be talking about artificial intelligence, or increasingly, they're talking about, we're offering programs for young Black entrepreneurs and Black-led businesses. We're doing a suite of events this month in connection with the City of London in partnership on climate change and what can we do about it. And we have a big event coming up at the end of the month at Goodwill with Susan Glukark, who's coming in to sing and talk to us. It's an Indigenous-led event. And then we do a similar sort of event during Indigenous National History Month. So lots where we did an event, an Ask the Experts event on allyship in the workplace. How can you be an ally to Indigenous employees in the workplace? So a lot of that. Then we do a lot of advocacy. And that's sort of the unknown thing. People are kind of unaware of it, but just to give you an example, we've worked with the city on a lot of different initiatives. We worked with the city on their multi-year budget, on the new strategic plan. We've been part of the Health and Homelessness Initiative. We're very keen on downtown revitalization. So we're present at the table. We're talking to the staff. We're talking to the councillors about how we can how can business help our community be more successful. And then the last thing that people tell us that, well, there's others, but one of the more interesting ones that they've told us recently is they like to be members of the Chamber of Commerce because of the work we do in the community. And the work that we do in the community is focused on health and homelessness, the encampments, on addiction on the streets, bringing the cultural community together, and those sorts of things. So working with the community towards social progress, working with the businesses towards economic prosperity, that's what it is, and that's why people want to be members.
Oh, that's great. Mm-hmm. Really helps get people off the ground.
It does, and yeah, and many, I would say, many of the people joining are just getting off the ground.
This was coffee and cream, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it tastes like. It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. No, it's very good. It's a little messy, though.
A little bit. Well, this is a great time for me to get myself together. We'll be back after this commercial break. Thanks for joining us. I'm here at Food for Thought with Graham Henderson, CEO of the London Chamber of Commerce. We were just talking about the benefits to the community the Chamber has. Mm-hmm. I know there are hundreds of chambers across Canada. Mm-hmm. Do you ever work with other chambers for more networking opportunities? Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's one of the great advantages of our network. We're not alone. So in Ontario, I think there are about 150 chambers. We are one of the largest and fastest growing. The other large ones are obvious. It would be Toronto and Hamilton and so forth. But there are just as many, well, there are far more small chambers, and they can be actually volunteer run, or they may have only a single employee. But we do come together. One of the great things about the network and even for the members. So we talked about Ask the Experts. That is basically an opportunity to exchange best practices, as is networking. You meet another business person, they start talking about, well, this is how I do it, and so we're exchanging best practices. Everybody wants to be better. And we have monthly meetings on Zoom of between 50 and 60 of these chambers from around Ontario who get together and we discuss how can we be a better chamber and how can we offer better opportunities for our members. So there's a best practices exchange that takes place regularly. Similarly, if we have local issues that are of importance to us, for example, getting high-speed rail to come to London, this is something that is of interest to Windsor, it's of interest to Kitchener, it's of interest to everybody in the corridor. So we can all come together as a lobby group and put pressure on the federal government to bring a high-speed train or something like that. So there's strength in numbers, and there is also a provincial organization called the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. Now, I was on the board of that for about 12 years. It's an umbrella group. It does policy work, it does membership development work, they develop materials that they then push down to all of us that we can utilize, and it's very effective. And then, of course, there's the Canadian group. So I forget how many chambers there are coast to coast, probably 600-700, but it's one of the most important, effective business networks in the country. I like to think of our network, of our chamber, as also in the vanguard of work in the area of equity, diversity, inclusion, in the field of Indigenous reconciliation, and in the area of creating a more diverse membership base. So that's been very, very important to me in the years that I've been here.
I know that with collaboration, it probably changes depending on the size of the project. So with the rail, that would include everyone involved in the rail.
Yeah.
But for smaller projects, I'm assuming that it would be different how you'd go about what works best for different sized markets. Right.
What works best. We helped the Labatt, which is an anchor member of the chamber, and as you know, this is hometown for Labatt. They were worried about an excise tax increase that was going to be levied on beer. It was going to have a ripple effect right through the beer making business, right through retail, and it was going to land up as an additional tax on the consumer at a terrible time for the consumer, coming out of the COVID and in the middle of the quasi-recession. And so Labatt worked with us on that. Or we worked with Labatt on that, and we were the only chamber that they asked to go to Ottawa with them because they wanted that grassroots touch. They wanted to sit in front of a minister or a member of parliament or a bureaucrat with people from smaller communities that could tell grassroots stories. So yeah, it depends on what you want to accomplish. There's no one size fits all.
I've wondered, because you've been at the chamber for a long time, and I'm sure that as times change, you got to change too. Have you noticed any big changes from when you started versus now? Yeah,
well, I've only been here 3 years actually. It's coming up on 4. And I was very definitely brought in as a change agent, which is kind of what I've spent most of my career trying to be, change for the better. And I was tasked by my very supportive board in undertaking a renovation, a reinvention. So one of the first things that we did was conduct a mammoth outreach into the community to gather ideas and thoughts about what the chamber was doing well and what it could do better. We collected that, we created a new strategic plan. Coming out of that exercise, we were told that the organization wasn't inclusive enough, that we needed to revamp our bylaws and our policies to ensure that they were modern, to ensure that they supported and upheld the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion, that we engaged with economic reconciliation with Indigenous folks. So we undertook that. we did a massive governance overhaul of the organization, redid all of our bylaws. We downsized the board, got rid of an executive committee, which was making it feel not inclusive. So it's smaller, it's more effective, it's more engaged, and we also have a diversity policy, which against which I'm held up to diversify the membership. And that's very unusual. Very few diversity policies require that. But one of the biggest changes I've seen is the extent to which the black businesses, Hindu businesses, indigenous businesses, Muslim businesses are showing up and joining because they're starting to see themselves in our organization. They're starting to feel supported by the Chamber. Women-led businesses, we have partnerships with the 2SL LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce, the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. So we're constantly, and the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce. We had the first joint partnership with the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce in all of Canada. So we're very, very proud of this. These are big changes. It was a dramatic overhaul. It is a modern, caring, efficient organization. We also had to upgrade just getting my staff the tools that they needed, right? I found that we needed to invest in our staff. We needed to hire a couple more people, and we did all of that. And so in 3 short years, and we needed to increase our membership. When I got here, it was about 650 paying members, and now it's about 950. And that is a meteoric increase. But that's all due. If you offer people a return on their investment, they will be happy and they will stay and they will come.
Well, that's so impressive you did that in 3 years.
I don't waste time. I don't have much time to waste, by the way. So when you reach my age.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Chef Table, for the delicious food, and thank you for watching. This has been Food for Thought.
Thanks, Mara.